All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone. For the next half an hour or so, we will be talking about OneDrive for business and collaboration scenarios around Office 365. My name is Amit Vasu. I'm a senior consultant Office 365 and SharePoint. I'm from Toronto, Canada. That's my Twitter account there. If you have any question related to this session, feel free to tweet about it with the hashtag MVPDays. Just as you probably might know already, this is going to be a recorded session. So as I said in the previous slide, if you have any question, use all the social media channels with the proper hashtag, and I'll be able to answer them. Feel free to reach out directly over the email, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. Okay.
So, what are we going to be covering today? Simply put, I will be covering various collaboration scenarios using OneDrive. You would see me talking about how you can use OneDrive and collaborate with your internal and external users using share and copy link functionalities. I'll show you how document lifecycle will start in OneDrive, and then you can either copy or move to SharePoint when it's ready. We will also cover OneDrive and Microsoft Teams integration. Teams, for anyone who doesn't know, is one of the awesome collaboration tool, and I love it. What I love it more is its integration with OneDrive. And finally, and then that's what we would be covering in today's presentation as well. And finally, we will cover other scenarios like where you are using Outlook for your emails or a part of your group's communication or conversations, or Planner for tasks, and how OneDrive integration integrates with those scenarios. And I promise I will not bore you with lots of slides. I have a couple of slides just to start, and we will jump right into the demo. Okay? So, when at work, we are collaborating with different people, either in your team or outside of your team. If you look back 5 years and compare, you would notice that we are collaborating with multiple teams now than ever before. And we all use different products for different use cases. I'm not going to go into when to use what product or what service, but you get the idea that today we use SharePoint, Teams, Planner, and other Office 365 services when collaborating with various team members. So the question is, how does OneDrive fit into that? Well, OneDrive makes collaboration easy with either internal or external users. So if you're sharing your content with your internal users or users outside your organization, it also provides a rich authoring experience on various devices. So you're on a train, you're using your tablet to work on your PowerPoint or your Word document. It's seamless and it's awesome. And most importantly, it's secure. So with one click, you would be able to see who has access to what content, or if you want to revoke access, just simply by clicking removing access to a content. I can talk about this, all these features on this slide, but rather let's just jump onto the demo and cover some of these scenarios. Now, before I start, I just wanted to mention that in this my demo, you will see a lot of old UI. Microsoft already enhanced various UIs, features and functionalities, and it's a bit unfortunate that the timing for this recording didn't work out for me, because I wanted to wait a couple of more weeks and see if those changes rolled out to my demo tenant, but unfortunately it's not there. Organizers were very nice enough understanding my situation, and they extended me a couple of more weeks, but I had to record my session before it's too late, and hence as I said, I just wanted to mention that the UI that you will see in my demo might still be the old UI. If I'm talking about specific feature, and I know that Microsoft already enhanced that or changed some of those features, I'll mention that during my demo, so that you know that some of the changes are coming on those areas. Okay, all right, so let's get started. All right, so for this demo, I'm signed in as Alex, as you can see on the top right corner. Once I'm signed in, I can go to my OneDrive page by clicking that icon there. And here you can see that by default I'm on my Files tab. And on the Files tab, I would see all the files that are belongs to me. And as for anyone that doesn't know, OneDrive always starts with files that belongs to you, and then you decide who you want to share with. We will come back to sharing in a bit, but let's just very quickly look at the recent files. These are the file lists that you're working on. And this is an important list as well, because these are not just the files on your OneDrive and you're looking at here. You would go to Microsoft Office Word, you would see the recent list. These would be the same files. So if you're working on a PowerPoint presentation and you open your PowerPoint presentation on some other machine, you would be able to get to the document right from any device that you're using for working on those documents. Then there's files that are shared with you. So these are your colleagues and team members shared files that you guys are collaborating. You can just get to those files right from clicking shared with me. Discover is an important one. It's an, I think, important feature because it actually lets you discover relevant items to you. These are the items that you have access to and your colleagues and people that you interact with are currently working on. They're not necessarily shared with you, but you would have access to this file, and you can see by looking at what's trending, because then you would see how many times the specific file's been viewed and things like that. And there's a recycle bin, so I'm not going to go into there. You would be able to recover your files using the recycle bin. Let's just very quickly go back to the files tab. Now, there are a couple of things we are going to cover here. Let me just very quickly show you the sync feature. So if you're new to OneDrive, you can just sync your files just clicking the sync button here. And what that will do is this will sync all your files, and this is where on your local computer. And you can see that I'm using my demo tenant here, and all my files are synced. One of the coolest feature that I wanted to show you in this demo is Files on Demand. Files on Demand feature of OneDrive, which if you're a Windows Insider and on the fast cycle, then you would have it installed already. And if you're not using Insider builds, then you can wait till October 17, I believe. That's when Microsoft is going to release the fall Creator update for Windows 10. And Files on Demand is one of the premium features of that build. Why it's so important? Because Files on Demand makes it simple for users to access and share files and provides most complete experience for accessing your files on Office 365. So let me just very quickly talk about that here. Once you have your files synced, you can see that there are various icons there. So looking at any files, so you would have access to the files here, but right-click on a file. If you're going on a trip and you wanted to work on a specific file, so you can just simply use always keep on this device option. What this will do is when you click that, that will go and then download the file. And once you're done working with it, you can just free up the space, and then that will just make sure that the file is not stored locally. And here it's asking me how satisfied I am with the Files on Demand, and I love it. It's an awesome feature, one of the best features. Then I'll actually come back to Files on Demand, because one of the experience that you would see when it comes to OneDrive. So once you are into your Files tab, let's say you want to share your file, and a couple of things, and you select the file, you would see right at the top here is a share feature and copy link. So most of the time when you're sharing your file, you're either copying a link and pasting it either to as in the email or some chat window or somewhere, or you want to share your file, and then what that means is then you are sharing with some internal employees or external employees. So let's just look at those features. So when I select the file and click the share feature, you would see that by default, anyone with the link can view and edit the file. And I can start by typing the email address. I'm just going to invite my external Gmail account to add the file. And you can see right there, AmitVasu.gmail is outside of your organization. When I click send, what this will do is this will send an email to my Gmail account. And there I would be able to just open the file and start working on it. Now, there are various options, and the default option, as you saw, was the anyone. But you can always select that people in your organization only, and then you would see there a message that anyone outside of your organization you cannot share with it. But let's just stick with here for a second. It also allows you to select, when you're selecting any one option here, Either do you want to allow them to edit or just to read only, and you can set the expiration date. So I want to set the expiration date to be tomorrow. I'm very, very punctual on my completing my task, and I don't want to give them more than a day to complete that. Who cares? It's a long weekend. We just want them to work over the long weekend as well. Anyways, so after applying this, let's just again put the email address back and select that user. Now, one of the key feature of this sharing that I would not be able to show you in this demo, because unfortunately I had to record this for an event that is happening in 3 weeks from today. But one of the key feature, and I'll just talk about it, and if you wanted to see it live in demo, you would be able to see it on Ignite sessions. But when I click send, what typically right now it will do is it will send a link, and someone would be able to, or whoever you're sharing the file with, be able to open the file and edit or read depending on what you have chosen. Now, starting I think October 9th, Microsoft is going to start rolling out the secure links. That feature, I also love that feature, because what that will do is when you send an email to or share a document with external user, and when they open the file, service would automatically send a code for them to enter. So they cannot see the document until they have the code. So it's like, sure, you cannot, not everyone, because right now if I would have that link, I can share with other people as well, but with that secure links, that will make it so much easier to secure your file and not allow anyone else to access the document. So one of the coolest feature, unfortunately I cannot show you in this demo, but let's just jump. I just wanted to show you the sharing experience from the OneDrive. Let's just very quickly go back to our files on demand here. And if I would select the file here and share, you would see exact same sharing feature that we saw on when we're using OneDrive. So that's awesome, right? Because when you're sharing your content either from your OneDrive on the browser, on your desktop, or, and again, that's another feature that I don't have right now, but if you're using your Office 2016, Microsoft's going to start rolling out those updates where you would have exact same sharing experience even from Microsoft Office documents. So Word, when you want to share the document with someone else, when you click the share button in the Word, you would be able to share and using the exact same window as well. So let me just go back to my OneDrive browser. Now here, as you can see that right now I don't have my information panel, but you can just keep it always on. And when selecting an information panel, on the right hand side you would see your files, who has access to it, and all the recent activities around the file, which is awesome, right? Because you would be able to see who that file is shared with, who's working on it, and things like that. And if I would just let's say want to remove someone from edit experience or stop sharing the file, I can just click that, stop sharing, one click, and now all of a sudden I'm not sharing that file with anyone and that only belongs to me, which is awesome. Now let's just very quickly talk about the copy link function. Copy link function is it's just allowing you to copy the file, and here one of the improvements that Microsoft is making is to shorten the URLs. So the link that you see here right now would be longer URLs. And another thing that I really like, I mean, after this Ignite 2017, one of the things that I must say that, wow, OneDrive team has been doing an awesome job. And unfortunately, on my demos, you would see things that were already being shown on Ignite, but you won't be able to see it in my demo. But I'm just talking about them, and once they roll out, you would be able to see them in action. So you can copy the link and share the link with external users as well. All right. So let's just very quickly look at the copy link feature. So when you select the file, and sometimes you don't want to send an email and don't use the share feature, you can always just use the copy link feature. And copy link feature would allow you to just simply copy the link of the document and share it with your internal or external users. Again, same thing as sharing feature, you would see that by default anyone with the link can view and edit, and you have same options to just make it read only and things like that. Not going to go into the detail. One thing that I wanted to talk about here is the link itself. So Microsoft announced at Ignite that they would be rolling out the feature where these links right now they're pretty big, and when you're sharing externally sometimes it may not look awesome. So Microsoft's making this link very, very small, almost 100% smaller, and you can just simply share those links with your internal external users. So copy link feature is as opposed to sharing feature, it's just simply copying link and then you share with the external users. But if you wanted to have a secure links, probably sharing would be a better option. Now, when you select the file, and I wanted to cover one other use case where rather than sharing or copying a link, you're working on a document with your users. Once your files are ready, you can select the files and copy and move to SharePoint site. So you consider a scenario where you start your draft document, you collaborate with your other employees or external vendors. Once the file is ready, you simply use either one of these options, copy to or move to. You would see by default the sites that you're commonly working with would automatically pop up, or you can use the browse site feature. For the demo, I'm just going to simply use the marketing, and I can choose to copy here. That will copy to the documents folder, or you can create a new folder. So if you would create, let's say, a new folder, and click OK there, this will create a new folder, and then you would be able to copy the file to that folder. But right now I'm just simply going to copy the file to the documents folder, and you can see that there's an icon that's showing that it's currently getting that file copied to the SharePoint. So if I would go click that, you would see that my file just appear under marketing documents folder, which is awesome, right? Because that's one of the common scenario that when I work with the vendors and customers that they wanted to have a folder where you can see a draft document and published document. Using OneDrive makes it so much easier. You start with OneDrive, and with the document matured, you can move it to SharePoint or copy to SharePoint and continue working on a draft in your OneDrive. All right. Now let's look at the next scenario where you would be using your mail feature or email, and how OneDrive fits into that. Because a lot of people, believe it or not, still used to using your email. And that goes back to our discussion earlier that depending on how people use various services, they sometimes like just emailing because that's what they used to. So let's just sign, like for this demo, I'm signing again as Alex. I'll go to the email, and right now I'm on my groups, and you can go back to your email function, email folder just by clicking here. But let's just stay within the groups, because using the groups, I can start a new conversation, and as you can see, the two, it's going to my engineering team. There's 18 members, and what I'm sharing with them as an attachment here. So if I would just simply close this guy, let's say not the timesheet, not a good example, marketing slogan and XT 1000 series doc PowerPoint presentation. The next that you see, because what I actually forgot to mention here, when I'm attaching, I'm right on my OneDrive folder, and I have access to my own files or files that are shared with me, so that I can also, because I probably would have worked on those files and I think that they're ready to share it with the team, I can use that. Or typically you would use your files tab and attach them as part of your email. The next page is important, and one thing that I always like to, and I really like, is share as a OneDrive link, because what that means is your file still stays within your OneDrive, and people that have access to that one link can edit it. or you can choose to attach as a copies in some cases, but typically within the organization and in some cases when you're some guest access, sharing OneDrive as a link would also be a better option. So when I'm sharing the OneDrive as a link, you can see by default you would see anyone can edit, and what this will do is when I share the file or send it to the group, this will behind the scene would take care of all the permissioning and stuff like that. So as you can see that there's a new communication or new conversation showed up where my files been shared with the team that are or the group that we are collaborating, and then when they would be able to go in and edit the document because that's the permission that I've chosen. So as I said, one of the coolest feature that you don't have to attach the file stays in your OneDrive, and you can still use the email, but people would be able to use these files and able to edit it. Now let me just go back to my inbox for a second, and if I would go to my inbox, I see that the Megan emailed me. There's a whole bunch of files. Personally, big no for me for attaching that many files, but I can see the title says files for your demo. Yeah, makes sense totally. Here when you have files as an attachment, you don't have to save it to your desktop and then drag and drop to your OneDrive. You can just simply select the specific file and then save it to your OneDrive. By default that will detect, or if you think that all of these files go into your OneDrive, you can just simply click Save All to your OneDrive, and by default what this will do is this will take all these files and copy it to your OneDrive, and you can see that right now it's just going and copying these files. Depending on the size, it will be taking some time. Total size is 4 MB, so it should be pretty quick, and once it's there, you don't have to do anything. These files are now part of your OneDrive, and you can just simply go back and check on them or update them as you like. So again, one thing that I wanted to mention here as part of this demo is if there are people that might be using email quite used to, I still see a lot of people use groups and use the groups conversation for communicating with your group members, and this is a perfect example where you wanted to attach some files. You want people to still work on the files using OneDrive fits right there, because you're not attaching copies and then the actual copies flying around. You're actually linking to the file, and even if someone does attach an actual file, you can just save it to your OneDrive right from the email, which is, again, to me is an awesome integration when you're using stuff like Outlook. All right, so the next scenario that I wanted to cover here is using Microsoft Teams. So let me just start Microsoft Teams. And for anyone who's new to Microsoft Teams, I would advise that you go and look at some of the awesome presentations on Ignite. One of the coolest features, I love it. But let's just, for this demo, I'm in Microsoft Teams, and I've created a brand new team called OneDrive. And thing that you wanted to show you, so scenarios that where you would be working on a document outside of your SharePoint or Microsoft Teams, and once you're ready to add the file and share it with the teams, you can just use that attach icon here, and you would see that by default you see multiple options: recent, browse teams and channel, OneDrive. OneDrive is what I'm interested in, so you can just click OneDrive. What this will do is this will show you your OneDrive. This is exactly what you would have it here, and you can select the file that you want to share with your team. And so let me just select that file and upload a copy. Now this is right now what it's doing is it's taking that file from my OneDrive and copying to my team, and behind the scene it will go in. And so the scenario where we saw where I could select this file and use copy to, this is exactly what it's doing behind the scene when I select the OneDrive file by attaching it here, and as soon as I post it, you would see that the file gets posted onto a document library that actually is associated with that team. So that's the exact same scenario where you can start your work outside of your team, where you collaborate with or create a draft document, work with your other team members, and post it in the team once the document is mature. this is not the only scenario that I wanted to cover. Other thing that I wanted to show you here is the chat feature. So you can chat with your colleagues, and here while chatting, you can also have the same upload option. This one is different than what we shared the files under here, team. When you go to the chat feature, use the attach and click OneDrive option, and let's just let me see which files are just belong to me. So let's say marketing slogans, right? So let's just pick that file, because that file is currently only shared with me. I select that file and share. And when I share this file with Megan, what this is going, so right now, as you can see that it's sending. What's behind the scene it's doing is that when you upload the file or attach the file in Microsoft Teams, behind the scene it just goes, and if I would go back to my marketing slogan now and look at the information, and you can see that file has now been shared with Megan, right? So behind the scene, it just takes care of the permission and things like that, and you would be able to then track as to who's working on the document, which is pretty awesome, right? Because when you're chatting right now, and today, when you want to share a file, you would be either emailing or giving someone access to your OneDrive. Here in your Microsoft Teams, because most of the times your day would start in Teams and end in Teams, right? You might not be using emails if you're using it properly, but I don't want to go into those discussions. But here I love this feature because your files stays in your OneDrive. You're not going explicitly sharing, you're just chatting, and all of a sudden if you want to share certain files with your employee or your colleagues, you can just simply use the attach button, OneDrive, and share with your colleagues. Permission would be taken care behind the scene, and that's why when we talk about various scenarios for collaboration, because as you would hear a lot about people using Microsoft Teams and having this feature where I'm chatting with someone, adding a file to or sharing a file with that person, permission and everything's been taken care behind the scene. And best of all, I would be able to go and see what's happening when someone modified it and things like that, which is another awesome feature when you're using not just SharePoint, but now, as I was showing you, Teams. When you use the Teams and you want to share certain documents, everything's been taken care for you behind the scene. All right. So the last thing that I wanted to cover here is when you're using services like Planner or Yammer and wanted to attach a document, you can still use your OneDrive file. So you can have your file started on your OneDrive, work on it, and share with the team. Now, the integration that you would see might not be as rich as what we saw so far on the Teams, Outlook, or some of the SharePoint scenarios. But let's just go straight to Planner and we'll talk about it. What's the difference between when you're using Planner versus Teams? Now, I have a task here for OneDrive demo task assigned to me. I can open the file. Now, as you see, when you open that specific task, have an option to attach a file. Now, by default, there's a file option that goes to your local drive or local machine, and the link, so you can attach a link, and this could be your copied link that from OneDrive that you can attach it here, and SharePoint. Now, logically speaking, in this case, when you're using a planner, SharePoint would make a lot more sense. The reason for that is because Planner and SharePoint both would be part of the same group, so it's very likely that the team that is working and collaborating on a specific or set of documents might still be used in your planner. So SharePoint, as I mentioned, logically would make sense, but in some cases you would start with a template on your OneDrive and wanted to attach it to your task. Now, as you can see, the experience, it goes back to your drive, but you should remember that all your OneDrive files you're either syncing or you have option to attach it back to your or bring it back to your local drive and attach it from there. So you can just simply select any of the files, and what this will do is this will attach this file. at the same time, what it does when you attach any of the file using the files link, there's a behind the scenes SharePoint site, as I mentioned previously, that file gets uploaded to SharePoint as well. It might not show up, or there it is. It might not show up right away in some cases, but you get the idea that you get the attachment option and the file gets displayed onto as a link onto your task as well. So again, I'm not going to be covering every single service, but some of the services you would see that the OneDrive integration is awesome, very productive. That right off the bat you can get the files and you don't even have to attach a copy, or some of the services where you would have to actually, given the fact that, as I say, there are some logical scenarios that you would have to work with, and in those cases you would actually start the file in OneDrive and move it to your SharePoint site.
All right, that concludes my presentation. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank organizers, volunteers, and speakers as was part of this conference. If you could please do me a favor, fill out this survey. That is, I provided a link there on the slide. It won't take, trust me, more than 2 minutes, but it will help me and help us understand how am I doing in terms of the presentation. So please, if you're watching this video on the event day or even from the week from the event day, if you're within that time frame, feel free to take a couple of minutes of your time and provide your feedback.